Kim. Just wanted to say thank you to everyone for coming out on this Saturday and joining in our 10th anniversary celebration of the Korean Adoptees Ministry, a decade of making deep connections. So, really appreciate everybody's turnout. Really appreciate that. And then part of what CAM Center is bringing people together, adoptive parents, adoptees, and the Korean community, and our friends and family. And tonight in this room, we see all of that. So thank you again. I'd also like to say thank you for my parents that were able to join us tonight, Charles and Carol Edelman, sitting in my to introduce Kim Jackson. Kim Jackson was adopted in 1975 from South Korea and grew up in northeast Minneapolis. She has traveled to Korea 8 times and began photo documenting her travels in 1998. She has worked in the publication field for over 16 years and owns her own graphic design business called Dalros Design. She currently works full-time as a senior art director for the Minneapolis St. Paul magazine. She lives in Minneapolis with her husband, 2 children, and 1 betta fish. So please, this evening, welcome me in joining Kim Jackson.
Thank you, Susan, for that introduction, and I would like to say our betta fish is still alive, so you just never know. Well, I would like to say thank you all for being able to come out to this special event, and I actually wanted to say a special thank you to Yoonju and Pastor Park for inviting me to come and speak and to sign and sell my book here. If you haven't had a chance, I was able to talk to people and sign some books before this actual program. And when Pastor Park invited me, he first in his email asked, would you sign and sell your books? And of course I said, sure. Wow, thank you. And it would be my pleasure. And then in the next email, he had asked, could you speak briefly at the event? And just to explain, I said yes without sweaty palms, because in my mind, brief means 47 seconds long. So I said, of course. And then 2 days ago, he said, you have about 10 minutes. So therefore, you'll see my hands kind of, including introduction. So unlike Mrs. Han, I only have 47 seconds. And I'm so grateful that she went overtime. Mrs. Han. So I'm stalling. Why I wanted to start with my thank yous to Yoonju and Pastor Park. I started getting involved with the Korean adopted community in '96, '97, and I met them in '97 when I wanted to learn the Korean language. So I went through the Kim School, and I first met Yoonju Park, and then later Pastor Park. And they have been in my life since then, and have been integral, whether I've seen them or whether time has gone by. They've been so important to me in my life and in my heart. And I'm so honored and privileged that they have invited me to come and talk more about my project and to be a part of this special event. So, so in '97, I learned that our Korean adopted community at that time was about 10,000. I had no idea. I grew up in northeast Minneapolis. I grew up in the cities, and I knew maybe one other Korean adoptee. I had no Korean culture experiences, and I grew up what I considered an honorary Polish girl, because Northeast was also known as Northeast. It's a Eastern European immigrant community. So I had my sauerkraut and bratwurst diet at times. And so, so in '97, when I learned this and started getting involved in meeting a lot of other adopted Koreans, I was so overwhelmed and amazed, and was just very fortunate to make all these connections. And so at that time, I was the art director for City Pages, which was a weekly newspaper, and there was a letter sent to me from the Minnesota Historical Society and calling for projects on how you would document the history of Minnesota. And at that time, I didn't know how to photograph. I hired photographers to do the photographs for the newspaper and to make me look good. But when I got this letter, and they knew that I was connected to the photography community, I thought, wow, wouldn't it be great if somebody could document our community? Because 10,000 of us, which is, you could say, one for each lake of Minnesota, that's a pretty good number in the history of Minnesota population. We are part of the changing face of Minnesota. So that was in my mind, and so as I got more involved in the community, I really wanted to go back to Korea. I had my first experience right after high school for 10 days, and it wasn't a very good experience. It was a culture shock, and again, because I didn't have knowledge about the culture, I didn't know the language. All I thought I'd be going back to a place that people would look like me and I would be accepted, but at that time in the late 80s, it wasn't in the mainstream consciousness to have an adoptee return to the country that they were from. So I was still a foreigner in that country as well. So it took about 9 years to really want to go back again and have that desire and start fresh and travel around the whole country and really find out where I'm from, who I am about. So in '98, I left everything behind. I left a job, I left a relationship, I left an apartment, and I kept it very open-ended. And so that's when I picked up my camera and started photographing South Korea and all the places that I went to. And from then on, I just kept photographing each time I went back to Korea, which was another 3 times in that year, and tried to go every year. So in between that time, around 2000, when I said, I really want to learn how to photograph, that project, wanting to create a photo documentary of our community. And I had this long list of people who I had met in the community. And I said, I bet I could photograph that person, I bet I could photograph that person. She's my friend, he's my friend, she's my friend, he's my friend. And wanted to maybe create an apprenticeship with a local photographer who did documentary. And I would be her apprentice. Well, after we met a couple of times, she said, you know, you really could do this. And I don't know what she meant at that time. I just knew that it sort of freaked me out knowing that I could. And so I sort of put it on the back burner until 2004, no, I'm sorry, 2000, at the very end of 2003, another, a friend of mine who happened to be a Korean adoptee, I just said the book project in passing, and she was thinking the same thing. She wanted to do something that would help document our community as part of Minnesota history. And so we got really excited. I think we were eating noodle soup, so noodles were flying all over, and they had to kick us out of the restaurant to get too excited. And so a month later, another friend of ours said, hey, there's an art grant that would be perfect for your project, and they would probably give you money for it. And it was the Minnesota State Arts Board Cultural Community Partnership Grant. And if we applied for this, they would give us seed money to start our dream book. And so 2004, they granted us $5,000 to get us started. And that would go towards all, at that time, film processing, the traveling, and getting to know people around the state of Minnesota to photo document to create this book. And 2005, our commitment to the Minnesota State Arts Board